Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Vimate Tasami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Thank you. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Kila Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So today's topic is forgiveness. And forgiveness is something that we all have to practice. Because if we don't forgive, we will cause a lot of suffering to ourselves and to others. I will start with a little anecdote of my own. I was in Durban, South Africa, and I went to see an Ayurvedic doctor. And in his waiting room, he had two areas. One was the regular waiting area, and one was a meditation room. So I thought, all right, let me go into the meditation room. And there was some music playing. And while I was in the meditation room, my mind became filled with thoughts of a devotee who I felt had wronged me, very badly, in a significant way that really interfered with my service. So the whole time I was in the waiting room, my mind was absorbed in such thoughts. Eventually, the doctor called me into his office, and he asked me if I had experienced anything in the waiting room. And I said, yes. Yeah, I was remembering a devotee who had really wronged me. And then he said, yes, the music he plays is meant to draw out thoughts and emotions. And, he took my pulse, he did my evaluation. And then he said that I had, which I knew, I had a little bronchial condition. And he said that the bronchial condition was due to holding on to my hurt and resentment of the devotee who had wronged me. And he said that by holding on to these thoughts and feelings, I wasn't doing any harm to that devotee, but I was causing harm to myself, which was manifest in my bronchial condition. So I'm citing this as an example of how not forgiving can be harmful to one's own self, and depending on the circumstance, it can be harmful to the other person as well. And in a way, you could consider forgiving an exhibition of mercy. I thought of the famous lines of William Shakespeare, that the quality of mercy is not strained. And I will read that because it highlights how forgiving is beneficial to the one who's forgiving and to the one who's being forgiven. So this is from The Merchant of Venice, Act 4. The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. So this was the point. Mercy blesses he who gives it and he who receives it. And forgiveness also blesses he who gives it and he who receives it. So I'll read 2 verses from Srimad Bhagavatam about forgiveness. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Vayam hi brahmanastata kshamayar anatam gata yaya loka guru deva parameshyamagat padam. Vayam hi brahmanastata kshamayar anatam gata yaya loka guru deva parameshyam agat padam. Vayam, we, he, indeed, Brahmana, are qualified Brahmanas, Tata, O my dear son, Kshamaya, with the quality of forgiveness, Arhanatam, the position of being worshipped, Gata, we have achieved, Yaya, by this qualification, Loka Guru, the spiritual master of this universe, Deva, Lord Brahma, Parameshtyam, the supreme person within this universe, Agat, achieved, Padam, the position. Translation: My dear son, we are all Brahmanas and have become worshipable for the people in general because of our quality of forgiveness. It is because of this quality that Lord Brahma, the supreme spiritual master of this universe, has achieved his post. So there are some people who have joined us who are not fully acquainted with the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And so I will explain some of the words or some of the concepts that may be known to many of you or most of you or almost all of you, but still we don't want anyone to be left behind. So Brahmanas in the Vedic social system, which is created by Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Chaturvarna Maya Shristam Guna Karma Vibhagasaha, that he has created the four Varnas according to work and quality. If one is doing the work of a Brahmin, Brahmin means the, let's say, intellectual class or priestly class, teachers. If one has the qualities of a Brahmin and is doing the work of a Brahmin, he is considered to be a Brahmin. Chaturvarnam Maya Shristam Guna Karma Vibhagasa. It is not mentioned janma or birth. It is a degradation of the original varnashram system, that someone claims to be a Brahmin because he's born in a Brahmin family, even if he doesn't have the Brahminical qualifications or perform Brahminical activities. And in the Bhagavad Gita, there are different qualities mentioned of Brahmins. And here in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that because of the Brahmins' quality of forgiveness, they are worshipable by the people in general. Then the next verse, text 40. Kshamaya rochate lakshmir brahmisori yata prabha kshaminam ashu bhagavams tushyante haririshwara kshamaya rochate lakshmir brahmisori yata prabha kshaminam ashu bhagavams tushyate haririshwara. Kshamaya, simply by forgiving. Rochate, becomes pleasing. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Brahmi, in connection with Brahminical qualifications. Sauri, the sun god. Yata, as. Prabha, sunshine. Kshaminam, unto the Brahmins who are so forgiving. Ashu, very soon. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tushyate, becomes pleased. Hari, the Lord. Ishvara, the Supreme Controller. Translation: the duty of a Brahmin is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased with those who are forgiving. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Different personalities become beautiful by possessing different qualities. Chanakya Pandit says that the cuckoo bird, although very black, is beautiful because of its sweet voice. Similarly, a woman becomes beautiful by her chastity and faithfulness to her husband, and an ugly person becomes beautiful when he becomes a learned scholar. In the same way, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras become beautiful by their qualities. Brahmins are beautiful when they are forgiving, Kshatriyas when they are heroic and never retreat from fighting, Vaishyas when they enrich cultural activities and protect cows, and Shudras when they are faithful in the discharge of duties pleasing to their masters. Thus, everyone becomes beautiful by his special qualities. And the special quality of the Brahmin, as described here, is forgiveness. Now, in principle, a Brahmin is supposed to be in the mode of goodness. Kshatriyas are supposed to be in the mode of passion, Vaishyas in the mixed modes of passion and ignorance, and Shudras in the mode of ignorance. But of course, when one engages in devotional service to the Lord, then one transcends the modes of nature. And even if one is externally, doing the work of a Brahmin or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Shudra, it doesn't matter because he's transcendentally situated in the service of the Lord. But the mode of goodness, is very conducive to forgiving. And there is one incident related in Srimad Bhagavatam that illustrates this point. Once the sages were gathered and were discussing who is the supreme between Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, or who is situated in pure goodness. So it was decided that Bhrigu Muni would visit all of the three, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, and test them. And within this test, as we will see, there are different degrees of offenses. So Bhrigu Muni was a son of Lord Brahma, as was Lord Shiva. So first Bhrigu Muni visited Lord Brahma, and he did not offer him respects. He didn't say anything against Brahma. That would have been an offense with the words. He didn't take any action to hurt Lord Brahma, which would have been an offense with the body. But he just did not offer respect. You could say it was an error of omission rather than of commission. But Lord Brahma became very angry because his son did not offer him proper respect. And he was ready to abuse him, but then with his great intelligence, our four-headed Brahma, Chaturmukh Brahma, he controlled himself, and he didn't, react by abusing Bhrigu Muni. Next, Bhrigu Muni visited Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva, as his brother, came forward to embrace him, which is natural. Brothers meeting after, especially after a long period of separation. So Lord Shiva came forward to embrace him, and Bhrigu Muni said, "Don't touch me, don't touch me. You frequent crematoriums, you're covered with ashes, you're always associating with ghosts and hobgoblins. Don't come near me." So that was an offense with words. And Lord Shiva became very hurt and offended and upset. So then Bhrigu Muni went to Lord Vishnu. At the time, Lord Vishnu was reclining, and his lotus feet were being massaged by Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune. And Bhrigu Muni, it's almost unthinkable and unspeakable, but Bhrigu Muni, to test Lord Vishnu, put his foot on Lord Vishnu's chest, or actually it's said that he kicked Lord Vishnu's chest. And Lord Vishnu was so sublime. He said, "Oh, my dear Bhrigu Muni, please forgive me for not receiving you properly. I hope that my chest was not too hard, and I hope it didn't hurt your lotus foot." So Lord Vishnu clearly demonstrated his sublime qualities, the fact that he was firmly situated in pure goodness. And so you could say he passed the test, and he showed that he was fully situated in pure goodness. He didn't take any offense, but he considered himself to be the offender. Of course, Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, did not take it kindly that Bhrigu Muni kicked her husband. And therefore, it is said that she does not favor Brahmins with Lakshmi. And so traditionally Brahmins are poor, and that poverty can be traced back to Brigamuni's offense of kicking Lord Vishnu on his chest. But the main point here is, yes, Lord Vishnu is firmly situated in pure goodness, and therefore he did not take offense. And a Brahmin is supposed to be in the mode of goodness, and therefore Brahmins also should not take offense. Personally, of course, if an offense is committed against the Lord or another devotee, that's a different situation. But personally, he does not take offense. And in fact, is so humble. And one of my godbrothers, Burijan Prabhu, a wonderful devotee, and he was discussing how when you chant with the intention of hearing and are really serious about properly chanting and hearing each mantra. That's his mantra or motto. That's his motto. One mantra at a time. Don't worry about the mantra that you just chanted, how good or bad it was, whatever it is, it's done. And don't think of the mantra you're going to be chanting next, or the round you're going to be chanting next, or the number of rounds that you're going to have to chant before you can take prasad or move on to whatever else is on your mind. But just one mantra at a time. And really, it's not even one mantra, it's like one name at a time or one syllable at a time. And when you do that, you realize, in a way, how fallen you are. And it makes you very humble. And so he said that when people, having that perception of his own fallen nature, of course, he's not fallen. That's not the reality, but he's very conscious of his own failings, his own weaknesses, his own defects. That whenever anyone, insults him or criticizes him, he thinks, they don't know the half of it. If they knew what I'm really like, they would be saying a lot worse. So he doesn't take offense. He thinks that they're going easy on him. So yeah, if we're humble like that, like Lord Vishnu, I'm sorry. I hope my chest was not too hard on your soft lotus feet. So then, we won't take offense. But as I said, if it's a question of offense against the Lord or another devotee, then we may respond. And the example that Srila Prabhupada often cited was Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya instructed, Trinadapi Sunichena Taradapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sada. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, feeling oneself lower than the straw on the street, more tolerant than the tree, ready to offer all respects to others and not expecting any honor for oneself. And in such a state of one mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So he taught, humility like a blade of grass in the street, tolerance like a tree. A tree tolerates in so many ways. It tolerates the scorching heat. It tolerates the torrential rain. People may tear off its branches or cut it. It tolerates, and it continues to give shade. It continues to give wood. It continues to give its body. So that's how tolerant a tree is. But when Jagai and Madhai hurt Lord Nityananda, you could say committed an offense against Lord Nityananda, that same Lord Chaitanya who taught Trinadapi Suniche Natararapi Sishna, he became like fire, and he rushed to the spot, and he summoned his Sudarshan chakra, and he was ready to kill Jagai and Madhai because of their offense against his dear devotee, Nityananda Prabhu. So personally, we should be humble and tolerant. But depending on the situation, if there's an offense against the Lord or a devotee, it may be our duty to take action. One very wonderful devotee and speaker, Radhika Raman Das, who is a professor of religion. I think he may be the head of the Department of Religion in Utah. He gave a wonderful series of seminars on forgiveness in Srimad Bhagavatam. And I've listened to that seminar twice. It's wonderful. And I've also recommended it to devotees to hear, especially when they're having difficulties with forgiveness. And so he says that when one commits an offense and wants to be forgiven, he should clearly state what his offense was, what his mistake was in detail, so that the person whom he offended knows that he understands what his offense was and the severity of the offense. And he gives many good detailed instructions how one should ask for forgiveness from someone whom one has offended. But he said, if someone asks you for forgiveness, whether he did any of the things you're supposed to do when you ask for forgiveness or not, but if someone asks you for forgiveness, how, in whatever way, you should immediately forgive them. And that, as we've been discussing, it's good for you and it's good for the other person. So, there's so many examples, even involving Srila Prabhupada. There was one incident when he was in Montreal, quite early in the beginning of ISKCON, maybe 1968, something like that. And some Bengali man started to verbally abuse Srila Prabhupada very badly. And it's not even clear. I mean, I can't imagine that Srila Prabhupada would have done anything wrong. But that man was just abusing him like anything. And the devotees wanted to intervene, and Srila Prabhupada stopped them. And then later, they asked him, why did you tolerate it when he was speaking like that? And Srila Prabhupada said, in my past life, I must have done something to him. So now in this life, I'm getting it back. So we can have that view also, so that we're, yeah. And as Srila Prabhupada often said, you should not, how did he phrase it? Yeah. You should not take action against the instrument of your karma. In other words, something is coming back to you, it's your karma. And you shouldn't be upset with the person who's acting as the instrument of your karma coming back to you. So these are, some of the, let's say, intricacies and subtleties involving forgiveness, asking for forgiveness, giving forgiveness, accepting forgiveness. I had 2 interesting discussions on this topic here at my ashram in Carpinteria with 2 of my very dear God brothers on separate occasions. One was Tamal Krishna Goswami. And he said that, yes, you should forgive, but only when the person stops doing the wrong. If he continues to do the wrong, then how can you forgive him? But His Holiness Sridhar Swami took a different approach. And he said that we should forgive, absolutely and unconditionally. And he quoted a statement from the Bible that if we don't forgive others, how can we expect God to forgive us? And I think that's also something that we should keep in mind, that if we're not willing to forgive others, then how could we expect God to forgive us? And we all commit offenses, we all make mistakes, we all need to be forgiven. So it's good to forgive. And as far as that question, whether you should forgive if someone is continuing, yeah, I mean, they're both great Vaishnavas, Tamal Krishna Goswami and Sridhar Swami. But I think it's safer to forgive, as Sridhar Swami was recommending, absolutely and unconditionally. Yeah, I think overall that would be better. But Tamal Krishna Goswami was a completely transcendental personality, but he did have a bit of a Kshatriya nature. And Kshatriyas, they also have different qualities. Like Dhruva Maharaj, that would be a whole other discussion, but when he felt insulted by his stepmother and he went into the forest to find God so he could get his kingdom back. And then Krishna, within the heart, sent Narada to the forest to guide Dhruva, to be his spiritual master. And And Narada advised him that, you're just a young boy, you're only 5 years old, you shouldn't take things so seriously. You should just go home and play and be happy, and don't worry about this now. You can worry about it later. And Dhruva Maharaj did not accept that instruction. He said, if you can tell me how to find God, because Dhruva thought, Dhruva's mother told him only God can help you. He said, if you can help me find God, then well and good. But if you want to tell me to go home, then you can go home. And in this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada comments that this was because of Dhruva's Kshatriya nature, that he took that insult to heart, and he's really determined, to get his kingdom, or an even greater kingdom. So, yeah, different people have different natures, but specifically, forgiveness is mentioned here for Brahmins. And really, we're all meant to be Brahmins. Vaishnavas, who are more than Brahmins. So, yeah, from every point of view, especially as Brahmins or would-be Brahmins, we should practice forgiveness. Hare Krishna. So I think we've passed about an hour. Do we have time for questions and comments?
Yes, Maharaj, as long as you can stay, we can ask questions. So you let us know when would be the last question, and then we'll take that last one. Until then, we'll open the floor for questions. If anybody has, please raise your hand. This way we can unmute you. And or if you would like to ask in the chat room, you could do that as well. Maharaj, I'll start with one.
Srivas Pandit has raised his hand.
Okay, Srivas.
He's under Mosum Sin. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful class. Really appreciate that. So I have a question. It's almost as if it's in a couple of parts, but can you think of a situation where it is okay not to forgive, even for a personal offense? And really where I was thinking was, what if some of this behavior leads people to treat you as a doormat almost? And then at what point of time do the acceptance and the forgiveness, realign or balance each other, or there would be an imbalance that we would have to address? Thank you.
Well, this reminds me of a disciple. Narada Muni had many disciples. So he had a disciple who was a snake. And he told the disciple who was a snake that he should not bite anyone. But then people started to take advantage of the snake and abuse the snake. So Narada, the snake came back to Narada and he said, "This is happening, what should I do?" And Narada said, "Well, you can show your fangs, but don't bite them." So sometimes we have to show our fangs, otherwise, like you said, people might take advantage. And I've heard that this is a problem for devotees in the workplace. Because if they try to practice, Chinadapi Suniche na Tarorapi Sishna, people just take advantage of them, and take advantage of their devotional qualities to get ahead of them in the workplace or to pull them down. So, I think that's it's a tricky situation because we don't want to compromise our spiritual principles, but at the same time, we don't want people to take advantage of us, because if our motive is pure, in the sense we're earning money to serve Krishna or to maintain our Krishna conscious lifestyle, and then whatever extras there, we use that to serve Krishna directly, serve the mission, then, we're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for Krishna. It reminds me of two different answers Srila Prabhupada gave to the same question under different circumstances. It was in 1971, during the war between India and Pakistan. And so one reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, what if Yahya Khan, I guess he was the chief of Pakistan then, what if Yahya Khan came to drop a bomb on you? And Srila Prabhupada replied, I would take it that Krishna is coming in the form of the bomb. So that's one type of acceptance. But then another time, maybe a reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, what if someone came to attack you? What would you do? Would you defend yourself? And Srila Prabhupada said, yes. Why should I let some rascal harm Krishna's devotee? So, a lot depends on perspective. But I think that, why should I let some rascal harm Krishna's devotee? That could be there. Sometimes we, just like Draupadi, we just throw up our hands and just depend on Krishna because things are beyond our control. Sometimes that's our only recourse. But otherwise, you can show your fangs, but don't bite.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Shanta, would you like to ask?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Please accept my acceptable obeisances. I had a question regarding, like you said, that His Holiness Tamal Krishna Swami Maharaj had a nature that was like a Kshatriya. So, and you also said that the varna of a person is decided by how the nature of that person, what kind of karma he does. So, as devotees, how do we get to know what is our varna, or how should we act according to that? Or, if we know something that, if we have a feeling that this is maybe our nature, so how do we confirm ourselves? How do we know that?
Oh, well, it's sort of a natural process that a devotee tries to find a situation that's suitable for him or her. And it does happen. Career changes. Someone will be in a certain career and then at a certain stage feel this is not right for me. I don't want to be doing this. I'm not meant to be doing this. So yeah, the context is a little different because it's sort of hard to reproduce the Varnashram system now. And Srila Prabhupada said, therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was given the holy name. Whatever situation we're in, we take shelter of the holy name. He said, yeah, it was a very interesting conversation he had in Mayapur. And he said, in Kali Yuga, nobody can follow properly. I cannot follow properly and you cannot follow properly. And if you simply find fault in others, then your whole spiritual life will be ruined. And then he said, therefore, Chaitanya, for Kali Yuga, especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is given the holy name. So yeah, try to find an engagement that suits you, that you can do well. One of the 26 qualities of a devotee is expert. And when Srila Prabhupada was asked what does expert mean, he said, if you do something nicely and everyone agrees, yes, this was done very nicely, that is expert. So yeah, find something that you can do expertly. And chant Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Dhananjay Govind Prabhu, and then Krishangi.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj Ji. It was very wonderful class.
Thank you.
Bhrigu Muni has, though he was testing, but is he not making an offense to his father, brother, and Lord Vishnu? How do we can take it?
Wait, what? I missed the first few words. Can you repeat, please?
Though Bhrigu Muni was testing, but is it not an offense to his brother, father, and the Lord Vishnu? How do we can take it, Maharaj?
Oh, I don't think he was really committing offenses because he was just testing them. He, on behalf of the sages, he was testing them to bring out the qualities and faults of everyone. But in his heart, it's not like he didn't offer respect to his father, Lord Brahma, because it was in his heart not to be respectful. It's not that he refused to embrace his brother, Lord Shiva, because it was in his heart, all the things that he said. But it was just like a show in order to test them and to highlight the Lord Vishnu's sublime qualities in pure goodness. So, yeah, it wasn't really an offense. It looked like it externally, but internally it wasn't an offense because it was just a show. You understand?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. So there's a devotee named Shama Chandra waving his hand. Do you have a question or are you just waving? Well, unmute yourself, whatever it is. I think it was just waving.
Krishangi has a question.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for your wonderful class about forgiveness. I have a question. It's like sometimes when we are very new to Krishna consciousness, like neophyte, we are so like fanatical about being Krishna conscious, and we even offend our family members. And And later, when as we progress in Krishna consciousness, we realize that we made, like, we were being very offensive, and sometimes that member is even not here to go and be nice to them and ask for forgiveness. And so how do we deal with this? There's this new age concept, philosophy that states that you have to learn to forgive yourself in order to make progress. So how does this apply in Krishna consciousness?
Well, it sounds like there's two parts to your question. The first part, you're saying that when we first become devotees, we might be too rigid or fanatical and in a way offensive to our parents or family members. That can happen. And so, of course, after that, we should be nice to them and we can apologize. It's always good to apologize. And but you're saying if they're not present, you mean if they've left the world?
Yeah.
Or if they've left the world. Then, yeah, you can pray to, internally you can pray, to be forgiven. And externally, you can be careful, not to repeat that mistake with others. And, act in ways that would please your family members. To try to make up to them what you did wrong or said wrong. And then as far as forgiving yourself, that's also a good practice. I mean, it depends on what you mean, but there's a saying, to err is human, to forgive is divine, and to persist is devilish. So to err is human. So if someone makes a mistake, that's human. And then to forgive them, that's divine. And to persist is devilish, I think could be taken in two ways. I never looked it up, but I just thought it could be taken in two ways. That if you persist means you harp on it, that they made that mistake, that's devilish. But in a way, it's also devilish if you made a mistake, you've been forgiven, and then you persist in making the same mistake. It's like Srila Prabhupada said, I can forgive you once, I can forgive you twice, I can forgive you 3 times. But after that, there's a limit. So we shouldn't persist in making mistakes. And definitely we shouldn't persist in criticizing someone for a mistake that the person has made, especially if the person is not making the mistake anymore. It's like Srila Prabhupada said, or I heard it from Ritatvija Swami, but that, when people come to Krishna consciousness, they're undergoing a process of purification. And so we can't really, find fault with them, for some past bad habits which they're trying to overcome. And it's like, if someone's dirty and then they're taking a shower, you can't really find fault with them because there's still dirt on them, because it's going to be washed off because they're in the shower. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Madhvi, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, sometimes if someone's in a position of authority, they have to correct their student or subordinate. But they should do it nicely. But it doesn't mean we just let anyone do everything and anything without correcting them. Because that, like they say, spare the rod and spoil the child. So yeah, sometimes we do have to discipline, but it should be with love. It should be done nicely. Yes. Is there anyone else? Or Ramachandra, did you?
Madhvi has a question.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna Maharaj. My humble obeisances to your lotus feet. I have a question in this regard. Like, suppose if someone continues this offensive behavior, then and it is very disturbing and not favorable to execute our devotional service. Because it is also said, right, that whatever is not favorable, we should it's not, yeah. So then, how should one? What one should do in that situation if it's not favorable?
If what is not favorable?
Suppose if somebody is offensive, right, towards you, then yeah. So then their association is not favorable for us to practice our devotional service, or it's very disturbing. Then what one should do?
Yeah, you can avoid their association. I mean, if it's feasible, you could maybe arrange a meeting with someone that person who's offensive to you respects. Although sometimes people who are offensive, they don't really respect anyone. But if you can find someone that person would respect, and here maybe that person could intervene and speak to that person in your presence or not. Like, what is this? But if there's no way that we can effectively modify that person's behavior, then yeah, we can avoid them. It's not good for them or you. So be better to avoid them if you can. And if the situation is such you can't avoid them completely, then, minimum interaction and in circumstances where they can't exhibit that offensive behavior.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Shilpi?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Preeti Radhika here, Maharaj.
Yes.
I have a question. So generally in dealings with devotees, I tell myself that the best bet or safest bet is to be tolerant. And if somebody's behavior is a little out of line, just let the superior authorities know, leave it at that and carry on. Like no hard feelings and carry on. But in dealing with non-devotees, and especially if they are close family members, and with experience, you know that even if you explain to them that your behavior or your actions hurt me or hurt whatever, like hurt the family or whatever, but they still continue with the same behavior, and then you do the same thing to them, they get the message right away. And without compromising your spiritual principles. So if you kind of take revenge and they get the message and behavior is changed, is that okay, or it's not Brahminical, or it's not a Vaishnava etiquette, is my question.
No, if it works, I would say it's good. It's good for them to stop misbehaving. It's good for you if they stop misbehaving. So yeah, I mean, Srila Prabhupada said if someone is very, he might have been quoting Chanakya Pandit, but he said, you know, if someone is very straightforward and upright with you, you should be more straightforward and upright with them. But if someone is very crooked and cunning with you, you should be more crooked and cunning than they are.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Like,
Hare Krishna.
Shilpi, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah, go ahead, Rohan.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhupada. Thank you for the wonderful class, Maharaj. Just had a question, probably a little technical, but you spoke about the quality of forgiveness being natural to Brahmanas. You said that Brahmanas are meant to forgive, and Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita also says that Shamo Damas Tapo Shaucham Shanti Rajavam Evacha. So Krishna says that they are the natural qualities by which Brahmanas work. So does that mean that if it is hard for us, or if it is hard for someone to forgive, he's more of a Kshatriya or Vaishya or Shudra? As devotees, I understand that we are meant to transcend the modes, but we all have our functional natures along with the foundational nature. So we have this.
you should work on developing the quality of forgiveness. Some things we have to practice. Like once someone asked His Holiness Radhanath Swami, I happened to be there, someone asked His Holiness Radhanath Swami, how did you become so humble? And he said, I practice. And then after practicing for long enough, it became natural. Like they say, habit, you know, you can develop a good habit and then the habit becomes second nature. So, yeah, you have to practice tolerance and forgiveness. You can't say it's not your nature. You need to develop it. You might have lapses, but still, that should be your goal. You should work towards that goal.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Meera and Chaitanya Priya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept our humble obeisances. So, Maharaj, I had a question about Durvasa Muni. He was known to be like really angry, and it was said that, you know, if you're around Durvasa Muni, you should be really careful about your dealings with him because he tends to get angry in like no time. And that's been like, that's what I've seen even at our home, like, you know, my family, they've been like, whenever we would treat Brahmins, we would treat with a certain etiquette and ensure that they don't leave upset when they leave our home. So in some sense, are we saying that, yeah, Brahmins, you know, do get angry and you should always ensure that you please them?
Yes. Yes, we want to please the Brahmins. And we want to please the Brahmins. We don't want them to become angry with us. Yeah.
Maharaj, technically it's my birthday today because it's Raksha Bandhan and Balram Jayanti, so I'm seeking your blessings.
Jai, happy birthday.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone else has a question? Go ahead, Venkat Prabhu.
Thanks, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. I have like one question from the previous question.
Okay.
As per the Bhagavad Gita, so in our Bhagavad Gita, in one of the Prakriti Trigunams, which it says, all the people who are having Rajogunam, they will be rebirth, and based on the Rajogunam, only even the Brahmins or Kshatriyas or whoever it is, everyone will be rebirth from the same quality, right? So why it is kind of a difference? So the Bhagavad Gita, it says like the people who are reborn, it's like a part of the Rajogunam to fulfill their desires, and that's the only thing which I can think. So could you just please give me some glance around that to understand that factor? You are saying, okay, all the people, even from the Brahmins, we need to please, and why can't we please the rest of the people as well? So as per the Kshatriyas, they always offense, I mean, they defend the people, and that's their quality. But still, if even they are considering as a place, and how exactly it is going to be the entire world, and I mean, it's kind of in a trying to understand and correlate with the Bhagavad Sloka, what exactly it meant, and then the one which you are trying to explain.
Venkat, are you able to turn on your video camera?
No, yeah, let me turn on.
Okay. Okay, good. So, I mean, we want, it's like once Srila Prabhupada gave a talk in Europe, and he was talking about, you know, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, and the sort of hierarchy. And then after the talk, when Srila Prabhupada took questions, someone challenged that, you know, okay, you're saying, you know, the Brahmins are the highest, then Kshatriyas, then Vaishyas, and Sudras. So what are you? I suppose you're the highest. And Srila Prabhupada looked down and he said, actually, I'm the lowest. I'm the servant of all the other four. And one devotee who was present at that exchange said that Srila Prabhupada really meant it. He didn't just say it as a clever answer, but he actually felt that way. So yeah, as humble Vaishnavas, we should feel ourselves to be the servants of everyone, whatever they are.
Yep. Agreed.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Prabhakar Prabhu, you have a question? You can unmute yourself. Okay, now go ahead.
Okay. Hare Krishna, I have a question. My name is Prabhakar, and my middle name is normally is not shown there, Durvasa. So my father's name is Durvasalu, and I could never please him. He is so perfectionist. I could not meet whatever he expects out of me. And I am the eldest son. I stood first ranks. I did engineering top of in India, Indian Institute of Technology. I'm in this country 50 years, but still I have the same habit of treating my own children. Perfection is expected in every part of it. How do I become normal? That's my question. And everybody knows my father, Durvasalu, is perfectly named. And everybody says there is no better name for him, being that what he is, what he was. He is no more. I don't know how to, please him anymore. Can you give me some suggestion?
Well, how did you feel growing up in that atmosphere?
It was, I did my high school in 14 years, engineering in, much before anybody else. So it was because I want to make him happy and I want to be perfect in everything. And I worked in this country for 50 years and all the people work for me, perfection expected. And if my boss likes to do some work, best work, he will always give it to me. So I have developed the habit of doing perfectly whatever is given to me. If it takes forever, be it. It will be. So I just, I'm retired for last 8 years. I don't have the need for being perfect, but my habits die slowly. So my question is there any redemption for me? So can I be, normal again? And what should I do for that? I'm just, I joined this movement only 1 year back. I'm very close to my, 80s.
I see. Well, that's good you came at such an age. So now what do you mean by normal? Well, you want to become normal. What do you mean by normal?
I shouldn't expect from others perfection, and I shouldn't be trying to do perfectly everything. If it takes forever, I would do it. So that's what I would like to be away from, that habit of doing it. So that's what I think is normal for me.
Wait, what's the problem with that habit?
Well, I cannot tolerate somebody doing wrong things. So I will have to tell them, point out that this is what you are doing. You should do better. I can tell you how to do better. That has the habit also. So those things affect somebody else, people, around me.
Oh, they don't like it.
Nobody likes pointing out in general.
Uh-huh. But whether they like it or not, do they improve afterwards?
Oh yeah, once it's done, they know that work will be done in the best way. And my jobs are always that I had to improve the methods. In India, I worked for 7 or 8 years in Tata Steel, and I had the best job. And I left it and came to this country 50 years back in 70. And I feel bad now that I didn't join the movement earlier. But I think I only associated with this program for 1 year, and I feel bad about it. But I'm happy that at least I'm with the Krishna movement, however late it is.
Where are you geographically?
I am in New Jersey. I am closest to the Paramus, maybe 5 minutes from the temple.
Oh, and do you go often? I mean, apart from lockdown and everything.
I go to every program there is with the temple.
Good.
Maharaj, Prabhakar Prabhu is one of our first devotees when we started the center. We're distributing our cards, flyers, and he met us at the store. And within 1 year, he's now chanting 16 rounds, and he's looking to take initiation. And he's very, very sincere, very, very sincere devotee.
Wonderful.
I want to make up whatever I missed so far.
Good. Nice. Yeah.
Is there any suggestion that how I can improve?
Are you asking me or Ramachandra?
I'm asking you, and both. Ramchandra is always with me.
Yeah, Ramachandra, you speak first.
Maharaj, my question is the same, how I can improve, Maharaj. We would like to hear from you.
Well, as Srila Prabhupada said once, I was fairly new in India, and Srila Prabhupada asked me to speak in his presence. Occasionally he would ask his disciples to speak. And afterwards, I felt I didn't speak that well. I felt I could have done better. And so, I told Srila Prabhupada how I felt. And he said, that's all right if you think that that you could improve your presentation, but you should never think that you can improve on the subject matter. So, yeah, we've come to Krishna consciousness. It's the best subject matter. But we can improve how we present it to others, can improve how we practice it, but we can't improve on the thing. We can't improve on Krishna consciousness. That's the best. But I don't, Prabhakar, at your age, I don't know how fruitful it will be for you to try to change.
Yes.
They say it's, forgive the expression, but they say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
I'm older than the old dog, right?
So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it, but try to perfect your chanting, your reading, your purification of heart. If you really purify your heart, then these other things will naturally get adjusted. But I wouldn't make an effort to try to change, to modify yourself, because but work on your internal purification.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shraddha, you have a question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for your time and a wonderful class.
Thank you.
Maharaj, sometimes or many times we knowingly or unknowingly make mistakes in our spiritual practices. And Krishnangi Mataji did touch upon this question in the second part that she asked, but how should we really apply the principle on our own selves of forgiveness?
You mean if you make a mistake in devotional service?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Many times we become really harsh on ourselves and repent. So how should we be modest and forgive ourselves, or how should we really apply this principle?
Well, as we sort of discussed earlier, anukulyasya sakalpa pratikulyasya varjanam, that one should accept whatever is favorable and reject whatever is unfavorable. Now, repentance is good. It is part of the process of purification, but it shouldn't go to the extent where we feel like discouraged and depressed. But yeah, we can repent, and that should give us, that should encourage us to do better in the future. But not just, feeling discouraged and depressed and beating up on yourself. So in that sense, you can forgive yourself and try to do better in the future.
Thank you very much.
Maharaj, my question was that when Draupadi was dishonored, she wanted the Kauravas to be killed. She wanted revenge. And then in another instance, when her sons were killed, she excused Ashwatthama from being killed. Sometimes it's hard to digest that. Is it because, what's the reason? And how can we take that example and apply in our own lives?
But hard to digest what?
That her sons were killed, but she didn't want him to be killed, Ashwatthama.
Yeah. Well, that's described in the Bhagavatam. Vama Swabhava. That means her womanly nature, in a good sense. In a good sense. She knows how she suffered by having her sons killed. And so she didn't want Aswatthama's mother, creepy. You know, she didn't want her to suffer in the same way. And that was a very interesting incident because Krishna was telling Arjuna to kill him. And Arjuna was refusing. Although Krishna was directly ordering him to kill him, Arjuna was refusing. And it turns out that Krishna was just examining Arjuna. He was testing Arjuna. And he was actually satisfied when Arjuna refused to kill him. So, yeah, there are a lot of subtleties. But I think in that case, you know, everyone sort of passed the test in not killing him. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Anybody else? Any question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Ram Tulsidas. Regarding the same thing, we can see when Lord Krishna went to a peace messenger, and at a time, Draupadi, like even Bhima was ready to forgive what had happened. But when Draupadi says, "Oh Krishna," like she was really worried, like, you know, oh, you're going as a peace messenger, and I know that you might be able to like convince them. But you can see that at the time, the expression of Krishna that, like, you know, Draupadi, like everybody is going to like destroy all the women's in Guru's dynasty is going to cry because of the offenses you did. So that forgiveness was not there. Actually, we can see that that forgiveness mentality from Krishna itself was not there. So how can we really see that? And also we can see, I think this topic of forgiveness, this is actually becomes a part of our life because either we offend someone or we get offended by someone. I think this becomes a very a natural thing sometimes, which is actually unnatural to be. Um, so we also tend to see that generally, like, you know, people try to especially when I feel like it's really bad, and like, you know, to some devotees when they are being exploited, or like, you know, when I know, like, you know, things are going wrong over here, and especially like there could be leaders or people who are in the worker side, or they're like, you know, somebody's a little humble, or they try to misuse them, like, you know, in name of like being a boss, in name of being a leader, or in the name of God, or kind of we can say, as a devotees we tend to do. So how can we look into this, and how we have to really take like, you know, deal with this kind of devotees?
Well, you know, if someone is not performing his duty properly, he should be corrected. I mean, I did mention that. And if you're not in a position to correct the person, then maybe you can approach his authority, who is in a position to correct him. But yeah, you know, devotees should do their duties properly. And depending on how serious the deviation is, they should be corrected. Srila Prabhupada used to quote a maxim from Chanakya Pandit that, you know, that you should never flatter a son or a disciple, because then he'll be spoiled. They should always chastise them, or find faults in them. Once Srila Prabhupada, I mean, of course, there was good reason, very early when we were in Juhu, and Srila Prabhupada very heavily criticized me in a letter. And, I really had to make an effort to compose a reply, without being too discouraged. And he wrote back that, and he quoted Chanakya Pandit, that it's not that the spiritual master should always be praising the disciple. Sometimes he has to criticize him. And then he said, but my only interest is that you and all of my other students should progress in Krishna consciousness. So if we criticize, or some authority criticizes, it should be, with good wishes for the benefit of the disciple. It shouldn't be an expression of his own anger or frustration. So Srila Prabhupada, I thought his next letter after he criticized me was very good, how he put it in perspective. He said, my only desire is that you, along with all of my other students, should progress in Krishna consciousness. So a lot has to do with motivation. Does that?
Yes, Maharaj. It helps, but sometimes, we, as you said, we are not in a position to correct them. Neither we have some connections to the authority whom we can approach, or we don't have an idea, how to express things to the authority, to bend, or maybe you don't have even connection. So how, I think that's also a challenge to many devotees. They see what is happening in the society, things are really going wrong, and they don't know what to approach, because maybe this is doing for Krishna, they're trying to do, and they just keep tolerating many devotees, but as a part of the congregation, we don't feel right. So how we really take care of that feeling, or we just let it go and just continue our way. Just like I just also think about Vivishan and Vidur. They also try to correct, they try to do everything, and they are just neglected and kicked out, right? From the, Ravana rejected Vivishan, and Vidur kicked out from, Vidur was also kicked out from Hastinapur. One aspect is that, but my other thing is, sometimes we don't have that approach. We don't know whom to approach, and we don't have that kind of approach to whom we can say these are things happening, or we don't know, it can be against us or something like that. They're afraid.
What was the last thing? Against you?
It can also bounce against you because you're not, your words are not strong enough, or because somebody is more powerful, somebody is bigger, they have the more approach and more power, they can smash it down. So,
well, it reminds me of the Serenity Prayer. I imagine you've heard it or heard a version of it. It's called the Serenity Prayer. And it goes, Dear God, give me the strength to tolerate what can't be changed. Give me the courage to change what can be changed. And give me the wisdom to distinguish between the two. So I think that's what you need. Yeah. The strength to tolerate what you cannot change, the courage to change what you can change, and the wisdom to distinguish between the two. Yeah. I might not have quoted it exactly, but that's the idea.
Thank you, Maharaj, for that. Yeah, definitely, I think that could help.
Good.
Ramnath Prabhu, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I wanted to know, is there a limit to which we can go for forgiveness, like going on? Because many a times we are taken into granted, like they think, okay, he's a soft person, he tolerates everything. So many a times we are misunderstood if we are not raising or not opposing anything in the name of tolerance. So taking us to granted. So many a time it affects us also. Like there is an example. Suppose I am right, he is wrong. But for a relation, I say, okay, you're right, so that I maintain the relation as a devotee. So,
Well, the last. By the way, do you have some other device on which is causing the sort of echo?
no, Maharaj, no.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's always a question whether something is worth arguing about or fighting about. I mean, sometimes it's not worth fighting over a small thing, and sort of better to concede it, even if you're convinced you're right and the other person is wrong. But if the other person's not going to accept that you're right and he's wrong, then arguing will just serve no good purpose, and you know, it's better to let it go. Yeah, and as far as people taking advantage of your being tolerant or forgiving, we did discuss this earlier. I gave the example of Narada, who had a disciple who was a snake. So yeah, you can show your fangs, but don't bite.
Because this came up because of in Lord Chaitanya's Leela, Ramchandra always criticized Lord Chaitanya very badly. So it was very tough to accept. Like,
but Lord Chaitanya, he took the good. He took the good that Ramachandra Puri was concerned for him. And yeah, he reduced his eating. And then when he reduced his eating, the other disciples, they reduced their eating. So he honored, in a way, he honored Ramachandra Puri. But then when Ramachandra Puri left, everyone was very happy and they went back to eating as normal. So, but temporarily they did restrict their eating. Maybe you could say out of fear of Ramchandra Puri's criticism or out of respect. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, then we can conclude now. I think I'll end with the Shringadev prayers.
Maharaj, one question, hand raised. Would you be able to take it? Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Meera and Chaitanya Priya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, so I was just meditating on the pastimes of Queen Kunti and Pandavas. For a very long time, they kept tolerating of all the wrongs that were being done with them. And after a point, when of course Pandavas got married to Draupadi, and eventually they realized that yeah, it's time that we stand up not for ourselves, but for for a strong reason for sake of everyone else, for a dharma. So are we also trying to say that it it's also important that you look at a bigger picture when you are standing against something, or just continue with whatever wrong thing is happening, and then of course Krishna will take care of you?
Does this have some
Because
application like in your life? I'm not catching the, maybe I'm not getting the point of it exactly.
No, Maharaj, not really. But I was just thinking that Queen Kunti always kept telling Pandavas that forgive your brothers and just move on. And it's only like later when Draupadi came to in their life, and that's when they kind of you realize that okay, no, it's time to stand up, because it's just not for us; it's also about our future generation.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a valid concern. Yes, that is a valid concern. You're so intelligent. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, there's a question in the chat box.
Okay.
Being forgiven, how one should take it forward. Example, if I am forgiven by someone, what is the ideal way to reciprocate besides feelings at ease?
Oh, well, it depends on what you're forgiven for. But let us say you're forgiven for a verbal offense. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the same tongue that you used to blaspheme a devotee, you should use the same tongue to glorify the devotee. So, yeah, whatever we've done wrong, for which we've been forgiven, we should try to do right, even more than we ordinarily would, but we should do it extra, to sort of, you could say, atone for our offense, or compensate for our offense. Yeah.
Another question has come up is, what if it's an unforgivable offense, like criminal activity?
Yeah, well, as Srila Prabhupada said, a Brahmin can forgive, but a Kshatriya cannot forgive, because he has to maintain law and order. And so if someone is an offender, the Kshatriya has to take action. He can't forgive. Otherwise there will be chaos, and the bad people will run wild. Yeah. Good questions.
Thank you. Maharaj, I'm very grateful for you to staying so long with us after the class, after the talk. Devotees are so enthusiastic to ask so many questions, and that's the best part. So we hope and pray that once COVID situation is over, that you'll be able to travel and visit us and give us your association and an opportunity to serve you here in New Jersey. And we will try to attend some of your talks when they happen elsewhere. Is there a way that I could be informed about your programs that happen? Is there like a group or something?
Oh, you mean like now, like the Zoom, this today's talk with you?
No, like say next week you have another talk somewhere else, organized by somebody else. Is there any way for?
Oh yeah, I have a mailing list.
Oh, okay.
And to the members of the mailing list, I send notices of my scheduled talks, and then the Zoom link or the Facebook page, or yeah, so I can put you on that list. But once you're on the list, you get other things also. Mainly on holy days, I will say like Balaram Purnima is coming up, so I'll post a talk I gave, the transcript of a talk I gave on Balaram Purnima. So you get a combination of notices informing you of when I'm speaking, and also spiritual messages.
I'll reach out to you, Maharaj.
Yeah, I'll just put you on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have one. Wow. In an hour, I have one.
Wow.
Yeah, another one.
And we will post today's recording on our YouTube channel. Damodar Prabhu reached out to me. I told him that as soon as we upload it to our YouTube, we will email him the link. So this way you have it.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Perfect.
Thank you. Let's thank Maharaj. Let's everybody unmute and loudly say Haribol and
Haribol.
Haribol.
Haribol, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj ki.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Gaur Premanande.
Happy Balram Jayanti.
I think Maharaj will be chanting Krishna prayer.
I didn't realize it was so late, and I'm ready for my
Hare Krishna.
And if you want, I will.
So devotees from Bergen, if you're still on, I just want to announce about our Janmashtami. Please pass on the flyers. You already on our Facebook page, we have our Janmashtami flyers. This is our first virtual Janmashtami we're trying to celebrate. It's not easy to celebrate Krishna's appearance virtually, but we're trying to make it as personal as possible. So need everybody's support in joining. I'm just quickly going to share my screen so you can see the flyer.
I think Ramchan Prabhu.
Yeah.
I think Maharaj will say Krishna prayers, he said. So we will hear.
Oh, okay.
Maharaj.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear that.
And I will just offer Vaishnava Pranam. And I'll leave the meeting, but then you can carry on so people know about your virtual Janmashtami and whatever else they need to hear from you. So let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, who can fulfill the desires of everyone and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchako Yascha Kripa Sindhye Vacha Yujnam Pranebhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.